Hey everybody, my name is Katrin Eismann. Welcome to a colorful conversation where we talked a lot about photography, color management, and creativity. I hope you enjoy it.
Hi, Katrin. How you doing?
Hey Matt, I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much. I've known Katrin for some years. We've bumped into each other in many places. First place that I met her when she was working at SVA. When you take a look at the breadth and the body of the work that Katrin has, you see that she specializes in many things. She's very good at being creative and curious and thoughtful about photography and digital photography. She's definitely an artist with a capital A. She's also a teacher and an author, and broadly and widely respected for progressing the art of photography and how people think about it. So we're really delighted to have you with us today. But thank you for joining us.
Thank you. That was very generous.
This is respect speaking. I'm really delighted to be able to speak with you like this.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. So we're gonna kick it off with an easy question. Katrin, coffee, tea, or something else?
Well, that depends on the time of day.
Hmm.
So in the morning, I enjoy large cups of tea. Then in the afternoon, I go to smaller, stronger coffee. And then depending on the time of day, there might be an adult beverage in the room. So, if someone offers me a beverage, my answer is yes.
Now, media being what it is today, would you call yourself or even label yourself as a photographer or a filmmaker or both?
I'm definitely more of a photographer, but I'm probably late to the game. I'm just starting to figure out when I walk into a scene or see something, starting to think, would this be better as a still or in motion? And it's really fun to think like that. To sort of, the classic is, oh, with motion, you're going to tell a story. It's like photographers have been telling stories for years, but just to sort of understand what's going to be more important. And so I'm just enjoying playing with that. And, to get started, I did all the motion stuff with the iPhone because, boy, that was easy. And now I'm starting to capture that more with the Sony cameras because it's just so good. And it's also just as easy because you flip a switch. Please don't ask me about video codecs because that's what Google is for. So it's a little both. I would never call myself a filmmaker, but I'm really enjoying playing with the sense of time. And I do like going to the movies.
What's your favorite movie?
Oh, yeah. There's so many from the Japanese filmmakers, Nosferatu, old German film, which I just love the black and white. A little more recent, the TV series Ripley. Did you see that in black and white, how it was done? It's made for photographers. I mean, it's amazing. The cinematography, I know it's not a movie, that is amazing. So I was thinking about that with my husband, like what movie would we watch every year, and still get something out of it? And there's just so many, depending on the mood. But that was not the answer. I'm glad we're not discussing Civil War because there's a lot for photographers to dig into that, and I am not a war photographer, so I'd be out of my element.
As would I. So I think we'll take the conversation in a different direction. Speaking of art, for whom do you make your art?
I make my art for myself to answer questions. I'm always asking, what would this look like photographed? Which might sound odd, but I like how cameras see the world. I like optics. I like the idea of the shallow depth of field, the blur, the motion. I mean, cameras, of course, see the world differently than we do, and I think that's incredibly exciting. And so I make it for myself. Boy, you don't want to see all of it because there's a lot of outtakes. There's a lot, people call them mistakes, outtakes, I want to call them, but every picture I take, I'm learning for the next picture. So not really mistakes, they're like little lessons. And so it's for myself. I'm very fortunate. I don't have to make a living off of my photography. I had never planned to do that, even though I studied it, because I've always balanced being a photographer artist with being a teacher, with being an author. Now I work at Adobe. So there's this great little overlap that I have that I can go to beautiful places to take pictures because I've been invited there. and then I write articles about it, and then I make prints, and then we come back and the whole cycle starts over again.
Rewinding a tiny bit to one of the things you said that caught my ear, what was the last interesting mistake that you learned from?
What's interesting is I do a lot of work with slow shutter, and depending on the subject, you really have to sort of find out what the right slow shutter is for that specific scene. I mean, I'm not, oh boy, I'm not the tripod person with the water, and I'm not like you with the night photography. Mine's more, much more emotive. So that's sort of too much blur, and all I get is mush. So that's sort of the challenge.
So with the longer exposure pictures that you take, do you find that you get it like on the first try, the fifth try, the 40th? Is there any sort of pattern to it?
Probably on the third day. No, it's literally that. Isn't that the beauty of digital photography? Being able to like try something, look at the screen, and adjust right away. I mean, I remember trying to learn about fill flash with film photography. By the time I got the film back, I had no idea what I'd done. But look, I got a good one. I had no idea what I did. And so as a teacher and as a student, as someone that likes to experiment, the idea of working digitally is just so great because that feedback loop is really quick. I can get there pretty quickly because here's the honest truth. It's like an artist, I have this great idea. And then you do it and you're like, ooh, maybe that's better if it just stayed as an idea. That didn't work. And what that really is you have an idea. Instead of saying, no, that's stupid. No, that's been done before. No, you're not the right person, because that little voice, that evil voice is in many of us. It's like, do it. And what I recommend doing is do a proof of concept. If you have an idea, pick up the phone to try it. Like, oh, I want to play with scale, or just try it really quickly. And if it works, if there's a little smudge of, oh, this is interesting, then you can keep going. And that's so much better than listening to those doubtful voices of, this is stupid, this has been done before, what are you doing here, nobody cares. Use your camera to, in a way, validate what you're thinking and what you're trying. And you might learn for the picture for tomorrow, or it might actually come back a year or two later, like, oh, that's what I meant, that's what I was interested in. I
love that phrase. Use your camera to validate what you're thinking.
Thank you. I mean, that's what I like, asking questions, or how would I illustrate, like, let's say a poem or a lyric or a feeling. And it's always like, what if? Well, I don't know. What if? I mean, what if? Okay, I got pixels. I'll figure it out.
Yeah. Also one of my favorite questions. What if?
Right?
Yep. The greatest discoveries happen when you ask that question. So when you do your work, and this, we could look at this broadly, we could look at this for personal work or, commercially. What's your takeaway when you're doing work for yourself?
If it's challenging me and if it's intriguing me, I mean, that's the only reason I'm going to do it. If I'm bored, why bother? And for me to be that person, I'm not self-conscious. It's like the neighbors have seen me in every mode of undress in the lake. I'm like, they've all had kids. There's nothing here they haven't seen before. I'm going to be the one crawling, under the bushes, trying to find a new point of view. I'm going to be the one that's like going to very respectfully walk up to people I've never met in my entire life, and try to engage, try to create a portrait. And as we all know, what's the worst that's going to happen? Picture's not going to turn out, or someone's going to say no. Okay. So I think I do that also to challenge myself. This past winter, I started working on a series of the people in Tucson, Arizona. They're at the side of the road asking for money, like the unhoused. And most people just drive right by, don't even see them. And you can tell people in cars, they're like, suddenly at the red light, they're very seriously looking straight and not seeing anybody. But I'm like, I see these people. And so I started approaching them with a large softbox and a big camera, and I'm almost 6 feet tall. You cannot overlook me. Okay? Have a conversation, do a portrait, 3 to 5 frames. If I don't get it in 3 to 5 frames, I'm leaving. So, anyway, I have no idea why I told you that story. But it's like you have to challenge yourself. If you look at your portfolio and you're doing the same work from 20 years ago, that would be an issue. Or if let's say you're 40, 50, or 60 and you still have student work in your portfolio, you might want to update it.
True. And you've met many students, have you not?
Yes, and I've done many portfolio reviews, and I'm very polite, but sometimes I'm thinking, oh yeah, that's the egg assignment. Yeah, I know that assignment because everybody's done it.
Guilty.
It's a good one. If you can light an egg, you can light a head.
Mm-hmm. So I'm feeling a really wonderful through line on this where there's something in your brain, and I want to pick at that a little bit. Where do your questions come from? How do you have ideas on how you fill that fount of inspiration, or where they come from?
I am a trivia junkie, and I listen to a lot of news. I listen to a lot of NPR because they always have interesting stories, and now more podcasts, of course. And it's just amazing what people do and what they talk about and what they think about. And then if you look at the history, I know the human race, I know it's a very brief history. It's pretty amazing what people have done when they really needed to build something. I mean, the Brooklyn Bridge is an amazing feat of engineering. And every time I see it, I'm still stunned. Like a few months ago, I was lucky to go see the pyramids. And I'm like, I know they've come up with new theories that there was a river here, but I'm in the alien camp.
Right.
I mean, each one of those rocks weighs 2.1 tons. Anyway, I'm just joking, of course. But I think when people are challenged and when they want to solve a problem, they get really creative. And that could be you want to express something visually, artistically, musically, with text. And you always most people want to create something that you're interested in. I mean, if you're boring yourself, that's going to show.
So it sounds like you seek out new stimulus, more inputs to keep that question bin full.
Yep, exactly. I can give you an example of one that did not work, if you don't mind.
Please, yeah.
There's this piece of trivia. I'm going to get the facts wrong, but the average American woman is XX tall, called 5'4", and weighs X. The average model is 5'11" and weighs 115 pounds. And those numbers are very, very different.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I thought, okay, I'm going to photograph women and turn them into these models, and it'll look really weird. Boy, that was terrible. I mean, I just stretched everybody out. It did not look good. It was not respectful.
Mm.
It was just really bad. I think I have destroyed those files. But the idea is, I heard this trivia and I thought, wow, that's really interesting. Because everybody looks up to these models and think they're the ideal when they're the top 2 percentile of what people look like. Right. And if you try to impose that on other people, it's just not right. The pictures were terrible.
And it sounds like you learned a valuable lesson from the exploration.
Exactly. Yeah. So that was a creative fail confession. So, but I had to try it, because here's the thing: if you don't try it, if you don't do it, it's going to nag at you. It's going to you're going to be sort of stuck. I should have, and that's going to build up a block for the other ideas that might be better. So thankfully, I've done created a lot of bad files, or let's say not what I had in mind. But by doing that, I always learned more and more how the camera sees, how the lenses work, how the light works. And you change and you grow. So, oh boy, that would be the exhibit. Bad files.
You need to rent a larger space.
Very large.
Do you find yourself returning to certain themes in your work?
I find myself returning to how I work. I love the early mornings. If I had to think what is nicer for me, early morning or in the evening, I wouldn't say I'm a morning person, but the light in the morning is just so beautiful. And I love being out thinking everybody else is asleep. I don't know what they're doing. But I like that quietness and that freshness. So the early morning is really where I'm going to be the most creative. I think it's because you don't have the noise of the day yet. Things are fresh, and for me, you can't beat that light. So no matter where I am, literally city or country, I will be out wandering around.
And kind of in line with that, we talked about mornings being this, but perhaps there's something else to dig a little deeper on. Is there a common thread or a theme that sort of unifies everything that you do instead of a time? Or is it the question? Is it a color? Is it a feeling? Is there something that always gets your camera out?
It's a combination of surprise and discovery. When I have a camera in my hand, it lets me explore. It's sort of like my passport to exploration. And when I have a camera, I see more clearly. For example, people say, "Oh, let's go on a hike and take pictures." And I'm like, I'm either hiking or I'm taking pictures, because I'm a competitive hiker and would want to get to the top first. But so I'm very focused. So that idea of surprise and discovery when the world is quiet is fascinating. And you know what? You go out and walk, so maybe there's nothing there. At least you got to walk in.
Good call. Do you recall the moment that you had that aha instant where you're like, now I understand, I need to establish a color workflow? Do you know when that was and how it came about?
Were we talking about failures earlier? Oh my God. So yes. Oh my goodness. So in the old days, before there was desktop color management, I hope you never did this. In the old days, if you made a print and it would come out like green, what we had to do is you had to make our monitor green. Oh no, you did that, and then correct for it, and then the print would be closer, and that worked great for one print. Because then the next print, you had to do it differently again. Oh, that was horrible. Because everything was a moving target, so we're like, oh, make the monitor look like the print. Sadly, it sort of made sense, but it never really worked very well. So that was I think that was when it was like, there's got to be a better way. We got to get a grip on this. And when I started learning about color management, I sort of started understanding that the monitor, the file, the monitor, the print driver, the paper, they're all speaking different languages, and we need somebody that can translate. And that's what color management is. It's like the translator. Oh, you're saying red in German, but the print driver is saying in French. Let me translate that for you, so that at least they understand one another. So that was I was lucky enough many years ago to go to a presentation on color management by Bruce Fraser. Bruce Fraser was an expert. He wrote a book on color management, and he had a great Scottish accent, which I will not mimic, but he said, color management is push button easy if you know which one of the 600 buttons to push. And I was like, yep. And the whole idea is nowadays, the idea of color management, the equipment has gotten much more sophisticated. The translators that are doing the talking are not as complex. And if you still respect physics, understanding, hey, the monitor and the print are two different worlds. If you can respect that and go, I get it, you'll be much, much happier, much closer. And I think that's really what people want to do. We want so much control. Hey, but it's physics. I can't control it.
Similar, not the same.
Yeah. And then if you don't compare them closely, you'll be much happier. Right? I mean, if you live on there's the print. Put the print on the wall, and like that's a print. It has its own language.
So there's color management and there's managing expectations.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we've all, boy, I've met people that can, like, I swear they see like 1/3 CC color shifts. Like, okay, I will not do color correction with this jacket on. I know that much. You know, it's amazing what some people are so finely tuned what they can see. It's so impressive to see people like that pull prints, because it's like, oh wow, it really comes together. You know, I might not see it on the monitor, but so like if you're going to be like for exhibits and things, I'd much rather work with a really good printmaker than doing that myself, because they know how to maintain the equipment, they know how to calibrate it, build the profiles, etc. You know, and I think that's a really good collaboration. Let them do what they're good at. It makes a big difference.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. That's a great approach to letting the right people do the right jobs, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to your personal workflow, when do you color manage and how often?
Shut up with props. I calibrate my monitors by about once a month. I am in a fairly controlled viewing environment. My monitor is not by the window. I love walking by apartments where the monitor is right by the window. My walls are neutral gray. God, it sounds depressing. It's not. Really, it's not. I'm a big fan of my lens hood, which sounds really odd. Not lens hood, monitor hood. I use lens hoods too. You know, just to sort of keep everything more uniform. And so it's really more about cutting out the variability of the world around me. I'm also very aware. Obviously, I'm older than I was 20 years ago. Not to do critical work at 2 a.m. You know, when we were younger, we did that. It's not going to work. Maybe you could like do a spreadsheet at 2 a.m. But, you know, I'm not going to be doing critical work. No. So I just sort of try to keep everything within reason. I mean, here's what's going on. Katrin, you're not talking about color management. Yeah, I'm talking about the human element, to have that expectation that you are a big part of that system. So you need to know if you're exhausted, if you had a fight, if you missed the train, you know, all these emotional things, it's going to impact your work and impact what you see on the screen and what you deliver. I also am a big fan, of getting a second or third opinion, because we get used to it. You know, we like, oh yeah, I didn't see that green, but oh, there it is. So
bias, we all come with it.
Yep, exactly. And then when you get tired, you're like, it's good enough, let's go. Which is not the greatest attitude for an artist, but we all have it.
Again, the human part of the process.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, color management, if you think about it, uses all the sciences, right? We use biology because we're looking at something, uses physics, uses chemistry, uses psychology. It's very in-depth.
What an incredible insight. You're right.
Well, I can't claim that completely for myself. I learned that from Tom Ash, who's now the chair of the Masters in Digital Photography program at the School of Visual Arts. And he explained that. I was like, wow. I think he was trying to tell me I'm always in a bad mood. But but it's true if you think about it, because when we say she's seeing red, she's green with envy. I mean, people don't make that up. You know, they're speaking truth. And there's the cultural aspects also, right? So it's amazing. So it's not all in the little box. We're a big part of it.
Thank you. That's just, I love Tom, but that insight is a great share. I think a lot of people will find comfort in it.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so.
Now, I know you live someplace wonderful, but I have to ask, if you could be anywhere right now, where would it be?
I would be in Florence, Italy during the Renaissance. Yeah. Oh, and I would take a lot of hand sanitizer and antibiotics with me.
I get it. But at least they hose the streets down every night, right?
Yeah. But I mean, just that era, Italy during the Renaissance, the art, the music, the philosophy, the thinking, the cultures crossing and traveling, that it's just amazing. And I know that there's other great cultures and lots of things have moved and changed. But I think the food probably got me on that one. But I would, I think if people want to go into the future, I think that would be amazing to just be, I don't know, be a part of that. Just think of the workshops and the amount of thinking that was going on. That's where I'd want to be. But I would also like to be able to get back.
That would be good too. Yeah. So you could get more hand sanitizer.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to insult anybody, but 400 years ago, there were no antibiotics, so I'd have to take them. Yeah.
I understood. Yeah.
Okay.
I hope the viewers do too. We'll see in the comments.
That's right. The doctors are going to yell at me. You can't prescribe antibiotics.
Speaking of time travel, if you could give an elevator pitch to your 20-year-old self, what would it be?
I think I would, rather than doing an elevator pitch for me, because what 20-year-old would care about that? I would think, what advice would I give? And the first thing I'd want to say, and it's hard for 20, is trust yourself. Because too often, I know I was just too distracted. And then say yes more often. Now, of course, I'm meaning with safety in mind. But I know from my own point of view that I had many opportunities that I did not say yes to. And I've had plenty of opportunities and I've had a great career. But I wish I had said yes to some of them. So the elevator would be trust yourself, say yes, and let me know if there's anything I can do to help you.
That's so sweet.
Well, everybody has experience. And everybody, where the photo world, it's a small world. It's a small community. And so we can all help one another, support one another. We don't see one another as competition. What am I here in the Olympics? So I think that is really important. And as you know, what you give comes back tenfold. So and oh yeah, I love it when people are like, I can't tell you what I'm working on. I'm like, what, you're gonna run out of ideas? It's like, you only got 10 ideas? So, I think that idea of sharing, and I think with speaking of that sharing now with digital, it's so much more readily available, that sharing and that supporting. We're not hiding in a dark room anymore. If someone opened the door, they'd get yelled at.
For ruining an investment in silver. Yeah, no.
Exactly. That expensive box of paper that you counted the sheets on.
Well, having spent a lifetime working with other photographers and fostering their creativity, what question are you asked the most by aspiring photographers?
Okay, the thing that young photographers or creatives ask me the most is literally, how can I make a living off of my art? And that is a challenging question to answer because there has to be a big dose of reality. And if we look at hundreds of artists or photographers, many of them had other jobs or split their time. And you know what? That's completely fine. And so the idea of having a job, hey, to pay the mortgage, right? And to be able to survive and do your art, or actually pay for your cameras, is completely fine. I mean, the idea of being an amateur, it means it's something that you love doing. And so I feel that if you want to become like a professional artist, or now people want to be professional influencers, it's a lot of work. And I feel it's something you could grow into. And it's hard. You're very vulnerable with that. So it's nice to have a few different options. I mean, that's what I did. Little this, little writing, speaking, photography, because it helped me balance.
Speaking of creativity, how do you foster and protect that creative space? What steps do you take to, build a nest around it?
Fostering your creativity requires that you value yourself. That what I do is important. Now that means that when I'm gardening, I'm being creative. When I'm cooking, I'm being creative. I can be creative like mowing the lawn. I make interesting patterns. And what that means is, it's rather than, oh, I'm being creative, is I'm being present. I'm aware of, let's say, the color of the vegetables, or how the water's falling, or the light's coming into the kitchen window. And I appreciated it and take a moment to see it. And if it's really good, I will, of course, take a picture. And that's the thing. There's creativity and wonder all around us. We just have to be aware enough to see it and to appreciate it. I mean, I love it when someone says, "Isn't the light beautiful?" It's like, absolutely. Because there's a lot of people have no idea what that means, right? And so you just have to, in a way, turn down the noise, get away from the screen, turn off the news, and give yourself the chance to really see what's around you. And in many cases, it doesn't necessarily mean it's beautiful. It could be how something is falling apart. It could be what's been left behind. It could be the traces, the scrapes. It could be something, a broken plant. Everything is unique. And the thing is you only get to see it once. As a photographer, there's no going back. Oh yeah, I'll come back tomorrow and photograph it. No. Stop the car. Right? You have to do it at that moment. There's no going back. And so by doing that, I think you get more moments into your day.
Are you working on any new skills or updating any existing skills right now?
I am working on new skills. It's a skill that I cannot keep up with because during the time we've been talking, it's been changing. I've been trying to understand and work with all the generative AI and the whole idea of AI. People call it artificial intelligence. I'm trying to turn that into artistic inspiration. Same letters. Yeah, because it's so interesting. I'm hearing the same conversations like, AI is going to kill photography. It's going to ruin it. And I'm like, boy, we had those conversations 30 years ago when Photoshop came out. I mean, it's literally substitute Photoshop. It's the same conversation. And we're still here. Is it going to change how we work? Absolutely. Is it going to replace creativity? I don't think so. Okay, because if you're creative, you're going to keep up with it and understand how to take advantage of it. And I like using it more as like a part of the work, not the work in itself. Speaking of, I'm not interested in creating images by typing out, put a purple camel on a green planet and make it look like a Viking. Like, does not interest me. Because the way I see it is I could either be out discovering with my camera, or I could be sitting in front of a computer describing. And I have way too much energy to be sitting. But I can be out with a camera and be seeing and thinking. And now with the generative remove that, for example, is now in Adobe Lightroom or in Photoshop, I'm starting to take pictures I said no to for 30 years, 40 years. You know, the picture where like, boy, this is a great shot, but that street sign. Oof. And I'm like, I don't want to retouch it. You know, or there's something, it's always signs with me. There's something bad with this picture. Now I'm like, take it. Generative remove. Oh yeah, that looks better. And it's fun to see. I can literally see Lightroom in my viewfinder. Well, I mean, it's not like I don't have a special camera that has Lightroom really tiny.
But you can imagine the tools inside the frame.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm like photographing for the next step. And that's an important part. So there's that. And then the generative is really interesting as an educator, as someone that writes. I mean, now they're creating, you know, ChatGPT 4 has like, you can upload an image. It'll give you a critique, like a review of the image. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, that's pretty good. Not as good as a master's program, but yeah, it's okay, got it. And now it's asking, would you like me to edit it? And I'm like, sure. It's not up to my standards, but it's, you know, because it's being trained on so many images and commentary. It's amazing. And so I think trying to be aware of it and what's going on, it's impossible. I mean, there's that fire hose is so big. But I'm not going to be that person that's just going to be like, it's killing everything. And, you know, I'm going to be a Luddite. I will tell you, I did that once and I learned my lesson. 1991 or 92. Apple came out with a Quick Take 100. You know, it was like, it looked like a plastic hamburger.
Right.
And high resolution was 640 by 480. And you could take like 8 pictures. Woohoo! And I was working with Kodak, the TCS 100. It had a 12-pound hard drive. And it could hold 156 images. And I'm like, oh, poo-poo. Apple. Well, guess who's selling more cameras now? And I'm like, I don't ride every fad, you know, or have to know everything, because that would be exhausting. But not poo-pooing change is so important.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you should have bought Apple stock. I knew I made a mistake that day. But it's just, and you know, there's people that are much better with it and understand it a lot more. But I think even being aware of what's going on helps. And I'm starting to look at images differently now because of it. I'm looking more closely. Like, you know, I wrote a book that came out in, I think, 4 editions, Photoshop restoration and retouching. You know, so sort of that was like the old way. Oh my goodness. Nobody's going to do that anymore. You know, and they've got generative remove. And so I'm looking at the images now to like sort of check if what's been replaced, if it looks good. And I think we all need to be aware of that and not just believe instantly what we're seeing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because we know that we could be manipulated if we're not aware of what's going on.
That could be a whole discussion in and of itself.
Yep.
The flagging, whether we're possibly being manipulated by imagery, and we are, you know, and everything. So that is a great topic, and I think people should tell us more about what they think in the comments. I think we should have that conversation someday, though.
That's a deep, dark rabbit hole.
Well, Katrin, thank you. This has been time really well spent. I've enjoyed learning even more about you. I wish we had 2 or 3 more hours to do this, but I'm sure you have to run out and make more photographs.
Yes. I know. I keep looking out the window.
I can't wait to see you again someday. I
Yes.
hope that everybody here enjoys the latest edition of the Colorful Conversations for Calibrite. Thanks again for joining us. Katrin, do you have anything you want to share on the way out?
The same advice I'd give to that 20-year-old me. Trust yourself, and this sounds like Nike, just do it. You know, it's photography. My former boss said, we're not doing brain surgery. I'm like, thank goodness. You know, don't compare yourself to others. Photograph what you're interested in. If it's interesting to you, that's good enough reason.
Thank you. We'll see you all in the comments. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.